All right.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I am Grace.
And I'm Piper.
And this is What Do You Think?
What Do You Think podcast.
This is our very first introduction episode. We thought we could just kind of start out with a quick episode to introduce ourselves and what we're doing here and all that fun stuff. So.
Yeah, just kind of dig into why we're making this podcast, what it's for, who it's for. Because we were just looking at our Instagram followers, which granted, it's like 80 people. It's like tiny. But I'm actually really excited. There are equally, if not more, men than women following us, which I was not expecting.
No.
But I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to be a for girls podcast or for guys podcast. I'd love it if this could just be an open dialogue for both genders, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I can start us out. Give me a little intro of who I am.
Go for it.
I'm Piper. I am, how old am I?
23?
20. Thank you. Sorry. Pregnancy brain. I'm pregnant, so that's another fact. So I'm 23, expecting my first with my husband. We've been married 4 years. We live in Louisville, Kentucky, which I like Louisville, Kentucky fine. I don't love it, if I'm being honest. I'd be fine to move somewhere else, but I like it fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. No, seriously, I'm grateful. We live in an adorable little rental home that super cute, like little yellow cottage. I'm super grateful. And we have a dog. She's our baby, Ripley, our little Australian shepherd. She's our sweet angel, and Grace loves her, even though Grace doesn't like dogs.
I do hate dogs.
She does, but that's okay because she loves Ripley.
Yes. Love of my life.
Sweet baby. Oh gosh, what else about me? What am I passionate about? I love acting and storytelling. That's my favorite thing. If I could do that for a job, that would be amazing. But I'm fully trusting the Lord's timing with that. I've been acting since I was young. I am, and no pride at all intended here, but God has definitely gifted me in that area, and so I don't want to squander that gift and just let it fall to the wayside. I'm very thankful for the gift of storytelling, and I love performing and bringing people in, and this is a good example of why I love that. I was doing a show at Northern Kentucky University. It's called the New Works Festival, where we basically, like, hundreds of people send in original scripts, and all of our playwrights and directors and kind of board reads through everything, and they pick 3 that they love, and then the students get to perform them, which is really cool. So I got to perform in one of those shows. It was called Initiative. Amazing show about this young man who plays Dungeons and Dragons with his friends, and his girlfriend, that's who I played. It's a cast of 5, tiny show, which I love. And he is diagnosed with cancer. And so the premise is it's terminal. He's probably not going to make it. And so he, through Dungeons and Dragons, acts out all of the life situations he's never going to get to live in real life. It's brutal. It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It definitely tugged on your heartstrings. It was a really heavy show for sure. But I had someone come up to me after the show and be like, I haven't talked to my dad in like 4 years, but I'm going to call him tonight. Like, this show just reminded me how short and how precious life is, and how we need to, like, forgive, like, the people in our lives and and I almost started crying. I was like, this is it. I was like, this is why I love that this show gave that to you, you know? So that's why I love that. I also, obviously, I'm very passionate about, not politics, but I'm passionate about things that are now considered political, like children and health and all of those things. So this podcast is going to be an outlet for that. I work in a pro-life organization is something that I do. That'll be another podcast that we do on pro-life for sure. So get your stakes ready, or your, I don't know, cheers of
banner
agreement
flags.
ready. Yeah, banner flags or burn at the stakes ready. Either one. So that's a little bit about me. I'm the oldest of 3. I love being the oldest, and I hate being the oldest. It is definitely exhausting sometimes because you're kind of the guinea pig. Your parents, they try everything out on you first. And so for better or for worse, you get all the things first, which there are a lot of blessings that come with that, and I think a lot of hard things that come with that. I'm blessed with two parents who have apologized for mistakes that they've made, which I talk to my friends, and they're people whose parents have never apologized or admitted like, we did a great job. My parents are like, we know that we did not do perfect. We tried our best. We were parents for the first time. So I think that has made it easy to have a very close relationship with my parents and for there to be a lot of trust there. So I'm thankful for that. So I'm close with my family. We don't agree all the time, but that's okay. You're not supposed to. Yeah. That's the point of family. You're stuck with them even when you disagree.
Right.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. What else is there anything else I'm leaving out about me, Grace? My husband's great. Yeah. I'll just say that again. He's really cool.
He's always a good person.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm a fan. Excited.
I would hope so.
I was going to say, excited to hang with him till eternity.
Yes.
All right. Tell us about you.
Oh, me. I am Grace, and I'm also 23. I have a husband and a little girl named Ruth. My husband's name is Steven. We've been married for almost 3 years now. Been together for 5. Ruth is almost 2, so if you do that math, life went really fast once we got together. Yeah, we were married for 3 months before I got pregnant, so
that was crazy.
It was a wild time. We can maybe have an episode where we dig further into our lives, but yeah. Long story short.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, long story short, I was really sick the week of our wedding, and then I got progressively worse, and then the week of Christmas, I went into a diabetic coma, almost died, and then 3 weeks after that, I got pregnant, which was, my doctors still call it a miracle because there's no way that should have happened.
The Lord said.
Yeah,
he said, and yes. So it was. He said, and there was Ruth.
Exactly. So yeah, I spend most of my time at home now. Part-time, I do photography, and I really enjoy that. I've been doing a couple weddings recently, which I don't love, but I do love going to the weddings. Mm-hmm. We've done a couple of high school friends' weddings recently, and Steve and I do that together, which is nice. If I did it by myself, I'd probably go insane. So yeah, I do photography. I think that's my main hobby. I do stuff at church. I'm leader of women's group, and I really enjoy that. It encourages me to get into the Word a lot more, and kind of creates an outlet, too, of getting those thoughts out, which is another reason I'm excited to be doing this podcast, to just kind of talk about stuff that we're exploring, and that's kind of the whole point of calling it What Do You Think? Because obviously it's our thoughts on topics, mm-hmm. but we really wanted to make a platform for other people to kind of just share their thoughts and ideas and have conversations with people, and hopefully we can get some people on to discuss some stuff.
Kind of like a giant joint podcast.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of, honestly.
Like a community podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really want a lot of interaction from people. Yeah. We want this to be a place where we can all just talk about life and all the confusing things, because what else is social media good for?
Yeah, we live in a confusing world, and even if I don't have the answer, it's nice to just get the thought out of, like, what the heck does this mean? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's me. But yeah, I mean, we kind of just got into why we're starting the podcast, mm-hmm. but yeah, we had, our husbands had a podcast together for a little while.
They did.
Called Marvelous Men.
It's great. You should go find it.
You should
on
find
Spotify.
it. Mm-hmm.
They did some movie reviews. Yeah. They actually did a ton of them, and it was great.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts.
Honestly, same. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can find that on Spotify and Apple. Yeah, so they had a movie review podcast, and then my husband, Steven, did Marvelous Music, so he talked about movie soundtracks, mm-hmm. and that was fun, too. We didn't get to be on that podcast, sadly.
We didn't. That's okay. We started our own.
Yeah. That's why we're
started
here.
our own.
We had the drive. We wanted to be on the podcast. We didn't get to, and we started our own. Yeah, so last winter we had discussed maybe doing a podcast and threw out some ideas. We talked about doing TV shows.
We threw out a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
we were thinking about. What do we want this to have a specific direction? And it's kind of just landed on. We do have a specific direction. The direction is we don't want it to have a direction.
Yeah, just kind of.
We don't want to talk about just trivial things. We also don't want to come at it from a certain political party. If we're talking about controversial topics, we do want to come at it from Scripture. That's probably the most important thing you should know about us.
Yes.
So you can either join in or hate on us. But I hope you keep listening because I promise we have hopefully good things to say.
Yeah.
We are both very strong believers. We love the Lord. Yeah, that's I don't know what else to say other than we love him, and he's basically the root of everything we do. And so we'll definitely be talking about him and looking at the world through a Christian worldview, but not a religious worldview. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we are Christian, but I would not say we're religious.
I was going to say, well, not religious in the way that it has so many negative connotations these days. When people hear religious, they get very weirded out and very scared. We do believe in the Scripture and that everything there is good. We do believe that Jesus died for our sins, that he was a real man who walked on this earth, that was the full embodiment of God and man, and took on the sin of the world, and was killed for it, and rose from the dead, and now he's created a place that we can go be with him forever. I mean, we believe the gospel, we believe the Scriptures, but the Lord does not just show up in church for a certain amount of hours, and he doesn't abandon you if you need to sleep one Sunday morning. The Lord created all of this, which means the Lord is everywhere. The Lord is in nature. The Lord is in the little moments between you and Ruth. He's in the way Ripley is created and like runs around with her ball. Like, the Lord is in all things beautiful and good and holy. And so, yeah, I guess that would mean that we're not necessarily religious, but we are scriptural.
Yes. Yeah, we're based in the Bible. We're not based in a church's structure.
Or a denomination.
Yes.
I don't like denominations.
Not.
There it is. Trigger. Warning. I don't like them.
I'm 50-50 on that now.
You're 50-50. We're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Interesting. Okay.
Once church stuff plays out, we'll do an episode.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this yesterday. I passed by your house while I was running errands, and so it popped into my head. And I was also listening to Tim Ross. I don't know if you know.
I don't know Tim Ross, actually.
Oh
Who's
my
Tim
gosh.
Ross? Who's that?
Okay, so he was someone who Stephen got me into recently.
Okay.
He used to be a pastor, but he kind of fired himself from his own church just for...
He fired himself.
Yes, and he did an episode on that
Interesting.
recently. But he did an interview with Jackie Hill Perry recently, so Stephen sent it to me because we are big Jackie Hill Perry fans.
We are big Jackie Hill Perry fans. She
Big
was here in
followers.
Louisville recently.
Yes.
Shout out to Jackie. She was great.
Yeah, we went to go to her conference, her Glory conference, and
It was so good.
life-giving.
It was so good.
Thought about going to Knoxville to see her again.
Oh, I would love that. I really would. She's so excellent. She's such a great teacher.
Yeah, so Tim Ross is cool. I'll have to send you some of his stuff. But yeah, so I was thinking about it, and a lot of people who start podcasts that are based on Christian theology and everything, usually they're already well known. Like Jackie Hill Perry and her husband Preston, or you've got Allie Beth Stuckey.
Got Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Now he's very conservative,
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they all kind of have a platform and a foundation already, and that gives them the ability to start a podcast. And so, whereas you and I are not very well known,
not at all.
we have a very not small group of friends, but we're not super well known.
Yeah.
And we don't have a huge following on Instagram. So we are kind of starting from ground zero and cultivating a space for people to get to explore belief and learn with us. And I think that's kind of exciting. And
That's what I'm hoping, that we can just have dialogue and people like change our views. Like
Yeah.
truly try. Like please try to
Yeah.
change our opinion on some things, and we'll try to change your opinion on some things, and it'll just be No one's going to get heated.
Yeah.
We don't need to get heated.
Yeah.
We'll rather...
If we
I don't want to make that promise because
we'll
I
pray
can
about
get
it.
heated sometimes. I was going to say, we'll have a pray. We'll
Yeah,
stop and be
we'll
like,
stop in the middle
we're
of our
going to take a
podcast
second
and
and
pray.
we're just going to pray the Lord's Spirit in this room.
If there's a long pause, it's because Piper had to pray for a second.
I did. I was going to say, I do get passionate. We both get passionate.
Yeah.
Which passion is great.
Yes.
And we are going to get passionate about some things on here. But we want to come from a place of love. We want to come from a place of love and understanding.
And humility.
And humility. Yes. Those are, look at that. Love, understanding, and humility.
Love it.
Love it. That's perfect. That's what we're going to be based on.
But yeah, we do. I think I especially, and hopefully this will help me grow with having a podcast. I do come across as if I have a very straightforward opinion on things sometimes. I think that's the we Nate in me. I'm just kind of like, nah, it's this way. Even though as
Trigger warning.
Yeah.
We both are still kind of, we like the Enneagram.
I don't believe it's demonic.
We do not define our personalities nor our entire being on the Enneagram. That is wrong.
We just
Only God does that.
You use it as a tool
It is a tool.
to understand and love people and understand yourself.
And I'm an 8-wing 9.
And I'm a 9-wing 8.
So we're very similar and very different at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your core instinct is to peacemake, but occasionally the advocate comes out. My core instinct is to protect. Is that what we would say? Protect,
Yeah.
and then the peacemaker will come out, like on occasion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
We kind of even each other out well.
We
in that way.
honestly, like, it's when we started becoming friends, I was like, this is just works really well. This is relaxing.
That was I remember that conversation too. We were walking in Target, and I thought I was a 4, I think, and then you thought you were a 6. But as we were talking,
did.
You were like, "No, I think you're a 6." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And you're like, "We're just too alike to not have at least a wing like shared or something."
Which completely made sense when you texted me like months later and you were like, so I'm a 9-wing 8 for sure. And I was
Yeah.
like, hilarious. Just figured out I'm an 8-wing 9.
Yes. So that all kind of clicked.
It made sense.
And then our relationship grew from there.
It's been really fun. I was gonna say how did we meet? What's our story, our friendship story? I
that's
feel
a
like
good
we've
one.
known each other a lot longer than we actually have.
You really do feel like a friend I grew up with.
Yeah, like a core friend. You know, they're
Yeah.
like core memories, a core friend.
core friend.
I was in my head, I was like, who are my people that I'm like, I'm like, well, Grace Duncan for sure.
Oh.
And I was like, we've only known each other for like, what, 3 years?
It would be, yeah, because we met right after Steven and I got married.
Yeah. I came to your wedding shower because I knew Steven
that's
first.
Right. That's right.
But like
Okay.
I didn't know you at all. I think I met you once.
That's right. So Steven and I were engaged, and we did a Facebook invite for a shower we were having. Mm-hmm. And
because it was COVID, so not everybody could come to your wedding.
yes, so whoever wasn't invited got to come to our shower, and so. Let me think. Steven talks about you all the time, and you guys have
That's
known each
so
other.
sweet. I love that guy.
Yeah,
We
guys have-
performed in Pride and Prejudice once upon a time.
which is one of his favorite shows he's ever been in. So
It's same. We did it with our old buddy JT.
Yeah.
JT, if you're listening,
Hi,
we love
bud.
you. We miss you. We had a blast. We should all three of us do a show together again.
Yes.
Hit us up, JT. Let's do another show. That'd be so much fun.
That would be fun. Yeah, so you guys knew each other way back.
Mm-hmm.
And then Steven always talked very fondly of you guys, especially because you guys had just gotten married.
Yes. Oh my
Whoa,
gosh.
wait, we need to go way back.
I've known Steven for about 9 years almost. That's insane. Because
decade.
I was 15 when we met.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 24. So yeah, we've known each other for a while. So Steven and I were friends first, and we were friends for a few years, and then Keegan and I started dating. And I remember we were sitting around the fire pit in my parents' backyard because Steven would come over and we'd do fire pits together. He was getting to know Keegan. And he was asking Keegan all these very poignant questions. And I turned to him jokingly. I was like, are you checking him? Like checking his vibe? And Steven was like, yes. He was like, I'm making sure he's up to par. It's like, oh, made me feel super loved.
Yeah.
But now he prefers Keegan to me. So
That's all right.
no, he doesn't. We all love each other equally.
Yeah, we do kind of joke that.
We do joke, I was going to say, and then
We'll
I met
take the
Grace, and now I'm
kids
like,
and-
all right, bye, Steven.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out with Grace now.
They just We'll have our own houses one day.
It's gonna be great. They can be joined by that little walkway.
Oh, like with where the houses connect. With
Yes,
the bridge.
with the little bridge.
I love that.
And then we'll get a third one from Morgan and Tristan.
Yeah. So and then we went to your wedding in 2019.
You were. I was gonna say. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember seeing you because
I met you very briefly. It was like a quick hug. You look beautiful, and then it was like goodbye.
I was gonna say it was a quick hello, goodbye.
You guys had a lot of people to say hi.
We had about. I think we had around like 230, 250 people.
Gosh, that's wild.
Which I was like, yes, this is great.
Versus my 45 guest wedding.
You had COVID as well.
Yeah, we had COVID, which I think it worked out for the best.
You didn't have COVID. It was in COVID.
Yeah.
They did not get married with COVID.
We got married during
Everyone's
COVID
fine.
times. Yeah, so that was our first meeting, but that was really quick. And then we moved to St. Matthews when we got married in 2020. And we ran into you at Target. And then I think you texted Steven and was like, hey, we should all hang out.
Yeah.
And so I think we had dinner at our house first.
Yeah, we got together at your apartment and we might have watched a movie or we played a game or something because we all love movies.
We watched a James Dean movie.
We watched Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause.
What we did.
Yeah.
Because
I've never finished it.
We never finished it. It's been 3 years. Sad. Whoops. That's okay.
We'll get there.
A beautiful friendship blossomed from there.
We all just talked so much that by the time we started the movie, you guys were like, well, it's kind of getting late.
I was going to say, we just chatted for 4 That's the sign of a good friendship, where you get together to do a specific thing, and then you just end up talking, and the time runs out.
Yeah. Yeah, I specifically remember Keegan and Steven went into his office to talk, and we were just kind of sitting there, and you're like, all right, so who's Grace Duncan? And
I'm not about the small talk.
Yeah,
I was like, all right,
straight into
we're cutting all the shiitake in between, and we're talking about the deep stuff.
Which I really enjoyed, because I went straight into my life story and, like, stuff about, like, my family and some of our stuff that I don't think I'd ever really shared with anyone.
I've been told that I don't know if it's my bluntness or my directness, but the amount of times where I'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, I've like never shared that before, or like, this is so weird, it feels so easy to talk to you, which that's not a kudos to me. I think it's just, I'm a little forceful.
You get it out of people.
I want to know you.
I do think it is kind of a part of like, you are so direct and like open that it's easy to be open with you. But I think it's a vibe too.
I'm extremely devoted to my friends.
Yeah,
like they're on level with my family. I really love my friendships, and they mean a lot to me. And I'm really intentional with them. So I think you can guess that.
Yes.
Which is a double-sided, whatever. Because I also I take things very personally from my friends. If I feel offended by friends, I take it very personally because I'm like, but we're family.
Yeah.
My friends are like, calm down.
Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the story of how we got to know each other. And
I think a big part of our friendship has been the good, deep conversations that we've had.
Because we share a lot of the same opinions, but we do disagree on some things. But you and I we're not prickly with each other. Yeah. We don't really get offended.
You do get offended with movies sometimes.
With movies? Oh, well, that's different. Grace doesn't have great taste, is all I'm going to say. Grace does not think that some movies are good that legitimately are great films. Oh, okay. So that's just what, no, I kid.
You know what? I
kid.
I would disagree, but Steven's also been a little prickly about
his movies? Yeah. Well, me and Steven are prickly with films. We love our
true.
movies.
You are bigger
We're very
movie
defensive
nerds than I am.
Well, and I think something Steven and I do is movies are extremely personal to us. Mm-hmm. So it's like when we're sharing a movie, it's like, here's a piece of my soul that I found in this form of art.
Yes.
And to hear someone say, I don't like it. It's like, ugh.
Whereas I got into videography and cinematography, and so I'm more like, if the specific things aren't good, I'm just like, oh, this movie's trash.
Yeah.
It's
fair.
It's not about the storyline or the emotional aspect for me.
Oh, see, I love all of the extra stuff. The acting, for sure. That's the only thing that's hard for me to see past, is if the acting is legitimately poor. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to appreciate the story when I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah. Yeah, the actors make it or break it, the script can too, but...
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But the actors can fix the script,
They can. They really can. Enough. I do believe that the most important thing about a film are the performances. Yeah. Well,
Oh, that's
I'm going to go back on that.
It's a little bit of everything, I think.
It is.
It's a balance.
It is a balance, but the actors are obviously, I think, extremely important to a film.
Yes.
I don't know how we got on this conversation, but we love films. And that's honestly, that has helped me understand a lot about myself and when I get offended at things or like how deeply I hold my movies to my heart. It's helped me understand why I may be like offended by something or hurt by something or why certain things. So like, for example, my mom, who I love, is not a movie person. She's not an entertainment person. She has since we talked about this, she's so sweet and she'll be like I saw a movie and I really liked it, or like I thought you would like it, and it's so sweet because I know it's her saying like I see this, that you love this and I want to enjoy this with you. But for a long time growing up, she just didn't enjoy it. And I would try to talk to her about movies and she was just not interested. Not personally, she was just not interested. And so like I was like, this is dumb that I'm getting offended by this or whatever. But now I understand. It's just because I take it,
you took it personally.
I took it personally when it didn't need to be personal.
Yeah. Yeah. Movies and music was always, well, I should say movies because my mom loves music. My music taste comes from my mother. But, yeah, my dad and I connected through movies. And, like, we have our own theme songs.
That's so cute.
And he'll always be like sending me like old movies because I do love old movies.
I do too. The old movies,
yes.
Y'all. Like
or even
the 50s, 60s.
50s, 60s. I love me a good 80s movie. That's just
80
classic.
To be honest, they're not my favorite.
Really?
80s movies are not my favorite.
Wow.
I do love Pretty in Pink. I love Ducky.
Okay.
We'll have to talk about movies. We'll go through the decades.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think it will be mostly a Christian-based podcast, but we will talk about movies.
Oh, yeah.
We love Gilmore Girls.
We do love Gilmore Girls.
We have...
and we also love Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Well, Grace doesn't love Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones.
I'm working on it.
I found a censored version, y'all. I found a censored version that cuts out...
Should we link it?
So I was going to say, I feel like we should. This guy, like, allowed me and my husband to watch this together. Because, y'all, there's so many boobs. There's so much.
There's a lot of naked people.
There are a lot of naked people in that show. And there's no reason. I don't really want to see people having naked sex on TV. But we found a censored version.
Naked sex versus fully clothed sex.
People do it. People do have fully clothed sex. But like what I was trying to emphasize is how pornographic it is in that show. I know I'm so loud.
No, it's okay.
Grace keeps having to move my microphone because I'm so loud and she's so quiet.
It's all right.
It's all good.
Yeah, so we will have a wide variety of subjects to talk about. I think our next episode we're going to be going through the Secrets of Hillsong documentary. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I watched that.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it this week.
Yeah, I watched it. I was hospitalized a couple weeks ago, so I had a lot of time to kill. And, yeah, I watched it, and I had so many thoughts to the point where I was actually writing down notes because I was like, oh, I have a lot of questions and, like, just thoughts about the whole situation in general.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like people know Hillsong. Like, even I feel like non-Christians know Hillsong.
You can't not know Hillsong.
You can't not know it, whether it's the music or...
just the church or the school.
Carl Lentz or the school, whatever. Everybody knows Hillsong. But the documentary really, I had no clue what was going on in the church. And that's really fascinating.
I'm very interested.
Yes, so that will be something to look forward to. We are going to be posting every other Friday.
That's the plan.
Yes, so it will be twice a month.
Starting out small. If for some reason, if we get some followers, if we get some people who want to hear more, like let us know, like, hey, please post one once a week. Like, I really like listening to what y'all have to say.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Because that would be fun.
Yeah, we lead busy lives, though.
We do.
So I think twice a month is a good start, especially, I mean, you're pregnant, getting ready for baby and...
Getting ready for baby
all the
and
exciting
working
things.
full time and all the things.
I'm just prepping to be Aunt Grace, and
I was gonna say Grace is also. We're all having this baby in our giant family.
Ready to go.
We're hyped. We're ready to do this thing.
Yes. But we did something very last minute, and we actually did get a few questions sent to us.
We did, which I'm glad, because they're really good questions.
They're really
so
good
deep.
questions. It was quite a good load. I wasn't prepped for such deep questions.
Right? Yeah.
I was thinking like get to know you, and we got some really deep ones that I'm excited.
We're gonna have to do a whole podcast episode, maybe even series on like all of these things.
Yes, or even just a deeper like one episode dedicated to Q&A.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea.
So yeah, we're gonna do 2 or 3 just because they might get lengthy.
So what do we want to do the first one?
Yeah, go for it.
So let me find the full question where someone asked us. Okay. Someone commented, said, hyped for this podcast. What do you think about boundaries with parents? Boundaries with parents. That's really hard.
That's a hard one. Just being a couple years into marriage, I think that's one I'm just now figuring out.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm 4 years in, and I'm still don't have a clue how to do this thing. And it's just so, I feel like it's hard because when I listen to podcasts who have questions like this, I want a list of like, here's exactly what you should do. Here are the exact boundaries you should have, and here's how to implement them wisely and safely. And you just can't have that,
right?
Because every situation is so different. Every situation is different.
Well, and every person and parent is different.
Yes.
You know?
The dynamic is different.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing to do when figuring out boundaries is to go to Scripture. Number one. I had a great tip from a counselor once talking about boundaries with parents, and that the Scriptures do call us to honor our father and mother. But honor your father and mother doesn't mean any specific thing. So for me, that was very freeing. For me, that was freeing because she said, you need to look at it like this. A lot of times when you're approaching difficult situations, you tend to act from a place of obligation first. She said that is actually not biblical. She said Christ has given us freedom. So first, we need to take off obligation, and we need to respond from a place of freedom. So from that, I was like, great. So I'm free to do whatever I want and whatever I feel like, and whatever emotion I'm feeling at the moment. Which she's like, well, that's not true. That's not true. We are given freedom in Christ, but we are given specific instructions to love one another, that God hates the proud. So check yourself for pride. Make sure that you're acting in love. And love doesn't always mean going with the flow, being,
doing whatever they want you to do.
Doing whatever they want, like having no boundaries, because that's not very loving to either of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes being honest is the most loving thing you can do. Sometimes honoring your father and mother is putting up boundaries for your safety, for your children's safety, and for your relationship. Because even if you're not married, when you become an adult, relationships change. They just do. And that's okay. They're supposed to. But what do you have to say? I feel like I'm taking on this question a lot.
I was actually thinking of, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife.
Yes. That's good.
Which is one my counselor gave me as I was kind of navigating marriage, and because I am very close to my parents, and my parents took care of me and my health issues until I got married. And I went straight from my parents' house to marrying Stephen. And so with that, I think we had to learn a lot of boundaries of like, okay, well, obviously we still want to honor my parents and love them and respect them because they have a lot of wisdom to give to us in our marriage. But we also had to remember that we got married, so we are now one flesh, and we need to think about what's good for us and our family. And if that goes against something that my parents are doing, then we have to have that respectful conversation with them of like, hey, this isn't working out. And we have not done that perfectly, especially once I had Ruth. there were some hard arguments my mom and I had where I just really hurt her feelings because postpartum emotions and just snapping. But her and I have had some really good conversations, and she's grown a lot, and I think I've worked on understanding, like, okay, I'm an adult now, and I need to talk to my mom like an adult, not like a angry teenager.
No, that's good.
And so, yeah, with having boundaries, I think
you tend to go back to when you were a teenager.
Yeah,
when
where you're just kind of like snapping, and it's like,
yeah, it's like you're not 24, you're actually 15 again.
Yeah, and it's like, this is my child. Yeah, I'm married. Yeah, I'm an adult. Yeah. And it's like you're trying to prove yourself to your parents.
There's nothing to prove.
And there's nothing to prove. You're already living your own life. You're already married. You're no longer needing to worry about what your parents think of you. Or what anyone else thinks of you. And that is a really hard thing to grow into. I think I'm just now 3 years into marriage and having a 2-year-old. I'm just now growing comfortable with myself and my beliefs. And because I'm comfortable with myself and my beliefs, I am a lot more kind with my boundaries and how I present those.
Yeah, a lot of times, at least from the child, because we're speaking from, the child point of view, basically, because our preborn children and our tiny 2-year-old are not putting boundaries up with parents.
Yes.
I think we come from a place sometimes of feeling defensive of our choices. And when our parents question us on our choices, it's hard to take it into account respectfully and not take it personally when you yourself don't feel confident in the choices you're making already, and that just makes it worse.
I think it feels like an attack on your character.
It does.
Instead of them lovingly being like, hey, maybe think through that a little bit more.
And that just takes time and maturity and lots of communication and trial and error, and you get to the place where your parents can say something and you're like, oh, this isn't offensive. This is actually a really good point that I should think about.
Yeah.
But I do think, on the flip side, there should be boundaries. Yeah. There are things that you as a parent, you don't really get to talk that way anymore. You don't get to behave in this way, And
if you do have a parent who maybe has some blind spots, which I think sometimes, I think most
we all have blind spots.
Yes, and we all
parents
have
and
blind
children.
spots. I think in those moments you can't take it too personally because you have to remember God is showing your parents stuff as well.
Yes.
This is a new season of life for them too. I raised my child and they're an adult now living their own life, and that's probably scary for them. And if fear creeps in, sometimes they say stuff that they didn't really need to say. And so I think in those moments too, you have to have a humility to yourself and a grace for them of they're learning too. And just, give them that grace, be merciful with their response, even if it hurt you, and, pray for them too. I mean, we all need prayer and we all need mercy to grow and figure life out and respond well to stuff because we're all just continually growing.
Yeah. And I know specifically, like, as a woman and as a wife, and this could go to husbands too, maybe, whose wives are maybe in this situation, I love and respect my dad a lot. And so making that shift in my head to where my go-to guy is not my dad for help or for questions or for authority or a final decision is not my dad, it's my husband. And I know that was hard for me and Keegan at first, hard to figure out because there would be times where Keegan would be like, I feel sometimes like you're still choosing your family over me, which I had to take a look at because I'm the oldest. And so there were times where I felt like I needed to take care of my parents and take care of my siblings and sacrifice time with Keegan or boundaries or something like that because, well, my family needs me. And I do think that family should always be important, but Keegan is my first priority. So if my husband's feeling neglected, if my husband is not feeling respected as the man of the household, then I need to make some changes. Like whether or not your family agrees, like that needs to be your first priority, and that is biblical.
Yeah,
100%.
That's so interesting too, just because I'm the youngest, and I think for Steven and I, it was almost like we had maybe too harsh of boundaries, and so we didn't share things with my parents where we probably needed wisdom on things.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I put a little bit too much pressure on Steven to have things figured out because it was like, well, you're my husband and you're the leader, so like, figure it out.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you failed if you still have to ask your parents questions or advice.
Yeah, I think, again, there's a balance of, there are certain things where it's like, okay, we don't need to look to our parents anymore for certain things because we are our own family now and we need to make our own choices of what's best for us. But it is okay, especially if you're in the beginning of marriage or parenthood. Like, your parents have lived through that part already. And so sometimes it is good to also humble yourself in the sense of ask them for help.
Yeah, I think that's
guidance.
really good. So the second question, boundaries with friends of the opposite sex in marriage. Yeah, this is a good question. And we should have a whole podcast dedicated to this.
Yeah.
The friend has asked, she gave us a specific scenario, but we've been asked not to share that scenario, which is totally fine. So boundaries with friends of the opposite sex in marriage. People get really touchy about this one or really offended by this one. And that was when I was in college, and my husband and I were engaged. There'd be times where I had a really close guy friend. Like, he was probably one of my best friends I made at that school. He was awesome. And, you know, he'd have movie nights in his dorm room. And so he'd be texting me like, hey, like, are you coming to the movie night? And I'd be like, that's my plan. Like, who's coming? And it would just be a few guys. And sometimes, like, gals couldn't come. They would always be invited, but, like, sometimes they just couldn't come. And I'd be like, you know, like, I think I'm going to have to sit this one out. And it was never, ever that I thought that anybody would do anything or that I would ever be unsafe or that they would ever try anything or do anything unethical whatsoever. But I think that it is just foolish to put yourself in those kinds of situations.
It's a vulnerable state that you should never need to be in when you have a spouse.
I agree. I really do.
I just feel like, because, you know, Steven had some girlfriends, like, when we were dating, and I was fine with him hanging out with them, but then there was a talk of once we were engaged, it was like, okay, why do you feel the need to, even if it is with other people, but, like, stay at their house or have one-on-one time with them? Because I also believe, like, your spouse should be your best friend. Like, you should have that special friendship and connection, and you shouldn't need to find that in another person of the opposite sex. And if you do, you should probably look at why. And if there's something that's going on inside your relationship that's maybe missing and you're feeling that with the other person. Because that can just get kind of dangerous, and it can lead into...
It can just get sticky, and it can even just lead to, like you were saying, if you're looking for something else in a different person that you're not finding in your spouse. Like Steven and I are still very close and very good friends. Like, I have other guy friends that we're very close and very good friends. Yeah. But we're not going to have text conversations into 2 a.m. because that's not wise. Because when I devoted myself to this one man, my husband, I cannot give away pieces of my heart to another man, regardless if he's a friend, you know? Because Steven and I have deep conversations, but they're always in the context of, like, all four of us are together, spending time together. And that's not weird or wrong.
Yeah, so I don't think it's bad to be friends with opposite sex.
No, not at all. Because there are some people that are extreme, that are like, I can't text a person of the opposite sex, or I can't be in the same room with someone with the opposite sex if my spouse is not there. Where I'm like, all right, y'all, calm down.
That's a little bit much. But one-on-one time, maybe not a good idea.
Yeah, maybe not a good idea.
Definitely.
Maybe occasionally, like, in a public place.
Yeah.
Like if a friend is visiting from out of town and your spouse is unable to attend this get-together. Then
That's totally
go get
fine.
coffee. Go get dinner.
Right. Make sure it's public. You guys don't need to go to someone's house alone. Or
even if it's like, well, we're not going to do anything. I'm sure you're not.
If you're not going to do
but
anything,
why
you can
would
go out
you
in public.
need to be in that situation? Yes. Why do you need to put yourself in that situation? I think that's the question. Yeah. If people are defending so hard, like, why does this have to be an issue? Why are you being so sensitive about this? I'd kind of turn the conversation and be like, why are you being so defensive? Yeah. Why do you want intimate one-on-one time with this friend of the opposite sex? Right. What are you trying to fill? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, and I think as well, something you need to take into account is you and your spouse are of one flesh now. So nothing is separate. And this also needs to be, I will say this does also, we're speaking strictly as the opposite sex. if you yourself are, if you're a woman attracted to other women, then that same, I would say, thing needs to apply to women. You know, I would say that if you're attracted to the same sex, then you need to surround yourself in groups of people. You know, I think that, and that's a more complex issue, but I would say that even in that regard, you still need to be wary. If there is attraction towards a friend, regardless of gender, you need to be wary and have boundaries in place there, because you and your spouse are one person, and so everything should be shared and together. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. And I think we're going to be talking about Hillsong and Carl Lentz, so we'll be getting into the topic of boundaries.
I know absolutely nothing about this. Like, I know nothing about Carl Lentz.
Okay.
I know nothing. I just know that.
Well, for those who have seen or know about Carl Lentz, you know what we'll get into. But he cheated on his wife twice. Well,
Of course
pastor.
he did. Lead
But
pastor of
you know
a
what? The thing
giant
that's,
church.
the
He's a
thing-
man.
Yeah.
He fell. Men fall.
Men fall. And
So do women.
he was,
men and women.
He was in bad leadership. And I mean, not to excuse what he did.
No, not at all.
I think I am going to have the controversial opinion of I do have some props for him on how he handled it. But, But we will be getting more into boundaries on that for sure.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, the church conversation of boundaries, that's a whole thing. All right, the last question. This person really is hitting us with the stuff. How do the LGBTQIA plus people fit in the church?
I think we stated it pretty simply when we went over that question real quick was...
I don't like that phrase, fit in the church.
Yeah.
No one fits in the church.
Well,
that's the point.
yeah.
And everyone fits in the church. That's the point.
I would say they belong just as much as we do.
Everyone belongs in church.
Yeah.
Everyone belongs with Christ. Everyone should be with Christ.
I think where the topic gets tricky is, one, depending on what church you're in and what their beliefs are.
Yeah.
For me...
This is scary. This is scary to say out loud
because,
now.
yeah, I love my LGBTQIA plus friends.
Yes.
Mad love for them. But in my belief system, they do belong. They can be accepted by Christ as long as they allow Jesus in their life. But
I would agree.
I think when you allow Jesus into your life, there is a transformation that happens at some point where you understand that queer life is not for Christians. So,
Trigger warning. It's true. The Bible is extremely explicit in that it says that the act of homosexuality, not being gay or being lesbian, having attraction, that's not a sin. That's, people struggle with that. Everybody has attractions and inclinations in their life. That's not a sin.
Yeah.
The action of homosexuality is a sin.
yeah.
And you can't really get around that. It's stated in Scripture. Yeah.
Yeah. But, in the sense of how do they fit in, I think you just come to church.
Just come to church.
Just come to church, hear the word, and if something inside of you says, yes, this feels right, then, keep going. There's nothing you need to do at that point, you know? It's just coming and accepting it and letting people love on you.
Just come to Christ. I think that an issue that just a lot of Christians have is being so afraid of being accepting of that sin that they come in hot. They come in real hot and just want to talk about that issue where they're a whole person. This is just a part of who they are, and we want them to know Jesus and freedom in Christ.
And I think we forget, it's like, come as you are, but then it's like, all right, you got to hit the next milestone now. So we're just going to dump everything on you of
exactly.
everything you were doing is sinful. And I think that totally negates the purpose of come as you are.
Yeah.
It's
It
accept.
is the Lord's job,
Yeah.
not our job to
is.
work things out in the human heart.
Exactly. It's not on us to change someone's heart. Once you accept God and understand how much He loves you and the grace He has for you, I think that just comes naturally. And it doesn't come in our own timeline either. You know, someone could be gay for years and then come to the point of wow, my life is still sinful and I need to change this part of me.
And be a Christian.
Yeah.
I do genuinely believe that you can be a Christian and be gay. And
Yeah.
I know that that's controversial and not everybody agrees with that.
Yeah,
But
I think we just need to trust in God's timing and more understand the power of prayer than persuasion.
And the same goes, we're talking strictly currently about gay and lesbian people, but I think, of course, that statement applies for trans people as well. And for when I don't know what the I and the A is, I'm so sorry.
Oh, asexual, agender.
Yeah, something like that. Like, regardless, everybody and anyone fits in the church if you are there. That is the whole point. Jesus does not exclude people from coming to him. That is the whole point. It is our job to reflect Christ in what we do. And things like this, like we are stating out loud that we believe homosexuality is a sin, and that's super scary, but we're trying to reflect Christ in how we live, and that's what he says in his word, and we're going to be truthful and honest. But it is not our job to change hearts. That's not a burden it's not the church's job to change your heart. It is the church's job to show you truth and show you what real grace and real love. And again, I'm going to say the word truth and truth, because it can't be all grace and love, but it cannot be all truth. It's got to be both. Yeah. What's the verse that if I speak in truth but am without love, I am nothing but a clanging cymbal? That's a scripture as well. You have to have both, and the Lord will work in people's hearts if they just come to him. So that should be the subtitle. What do you think? Subtitle: Come to Jesus. He'll fix it.
Yeah.
Come to Jesus. He'll take care of it all.
For sure. Well, those were our questions.
Those are good questions.
They were really good ones.
Yeah.
And we might have to make those separate episodes and dig in further. Because there are a couple more things I have opinions on with those.
Yeah.
But, if there are any topics that you guys would be interested in us talking about, let us know. Comment on our podcast, comment on Instagram. What do you think, pod? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, even just on the questions that we were given today. Yeah.
We'd also love it if you subscribe and give us a rating on Apple and Spotify whenever you listen, because we want this conversation to be out there. We want people to hear these conversations and for these things to be talked about.
Want people to join the community.
Yeah, we really do.
That could be another name, the community.
Welcome to the community. Welcome to the community.
Welcome. And we hope you join us next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. See ya.